Hey you guys, I just got off of work. It's 7:15 p.m. on a Tuesday evening. I have something that's been on my heart to make a video about, and this is a tough one to make a video about, you guys. It's never an easy subject to talk about because it offends a lot of people when you even mention this. And the word is alcohol. I want to let you know that this video is not to condemn. It's not to tell you that alcohol is bad and you better stop drinking. There's some people that believe that alcohol is bad and you better stop drinking, and if you drink alcohol, you're not saved. You know, there's over 100 Bible verses that talk about alcohol. Not all of them are bad. It's how you view it. Just like there's a whole bunch of Bible verses about food as well. Food is something that God created. But he didn't create food for us to abuse, right? Bible talks about when you abuse food, the use of food, it's called gluttony. And there's also something that's called alcoholism or drunkenness, depending on how far you take it, that's in the Bible. But then there's also alcohol mentioned in the Bible. It's a time for celebration and joy. And even Jesus made alcohol, right? He turned water into wine at a wedding celebration. And this was a joyous occasion, right? So there's a time, there's a season. But it's how you use what's been given to you. So I'm going to open up the book of Proverbs, chapter 23. Solomon was given a whole lot of wisdom, and I do believe that he's probably speaking from experience when he writes these things. And I'm going to tell you, as I talk about these things, I am also myself speaking from experience. And I know this is a tough one to deal with. And if you're struggling with alcohol addiction, or maybe even any other addiction, well, let's talk about these things and we'll pray together, okay? I can't offer you 12 steps or anything like that, but I can offer you prayer. Before I start this, I just want to let you know that if this is something you're battling with, if you're being honest with yourself, and I actually want to make this video for those that are honest with themselves, right? Even if you're not honest with it yourself, I hope this touches you. This is, talking about alcohol has, I haven't made a whole lot of videos about it. I did make a video about alcohol before, talking about how a lot of relationships have been ruined because of the abuse of alcohol, right? Whether it's marital relationships, family relationships, friendships, anything like that, abusing of alcohol. And I had emails sent to me by some viewers that they were not happy that I made a video about that. They said they're going to unsub from me. They're not watching me any longer. They can't believe I even dared talk about something like that, which is amazing because a lot of people deal with condemnation, right? Condemnation's a struggle and a battle that a lot of people deal with. And some people are even addicted, like myself. I was addicted to condemnation, right? It was an addiction. It was like fighting a demon in my life, right? So when I talk about condemnation, lots of people are really appreciative of it, right? And thank me for it. But you talk about something like alcohol, ooh, that gets a lot of people stirred up. So let's go to Proverbs chapter 23. I'm going to start in verse 29 and read through to verse 35 through 35. Verse 29. I'm going to read it through, and then afterward we'll go back and look up the meaning of some Hebrew words, okay? Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has strife? Who has complaining? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of eyes? Those who tarry long over wine, those who go to try mixed wine. Do not look at wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup and goes down smoothly. In the end, it bites like a serpent and stings like an adder. Your eyes will see strange things and your heart will utter perverse things. You will be like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, like one who lies on the top of a mast. They struck me, you will say, but I was not hurt. They beat me, but I did not feel it. When shall I awake? I must have another drink. So let's go over the meaning of some of these words. He starts off saying in verse 29, Solomon, the writer of the Proverbs, he says, who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has strife? Who has complaining? Who has wounds without cause and redness of eyes? Now that sounds familiar to me. I battled, man. I had a big problem with alcohol for years. Wounds without cause. I remember waking up one morning with scratches all over my body. Cut up all over. I'm like, what happened? And I was super hungover, right? And the guys that I had gone drinking with the night before, they said, dude, because the bar was close to where I lived. I walked home from the bar and they said, dude, you were walking right through bushes, like straight through bushes, getting cut up and all that. They thought it was hilarious. Another time I remember waking up in the morning and running my hands through my head. I'm like, what the? I had really long hair and it was all shaved off. And I'm like, what? I go into my bathroom, there's hair all over the floor and a set of clippers on the counter. I had shaved my head. The guys I went out with that night, they're all, yeah, dude, we told you should go home and shave your head and you did it, haha. And I didn't even remember doing it. Wounds without cause, redness of eyes. Come on, you all know about the redness of eyes, right? It says those who tarry. Here's who has these problems. Those who tarry long over wine and those who go to try mixed wine. Mixed wine is mimsak in Hebrew. It means mixed drinks, right? Could be any kind of booze, really. Those who tarry long over wine. Remember, when it talks about wine, we're talking about alcohol, not just wine. Well, I don't drink wine. I drink whiskey. I drink vodka. Remember, we want to read Scripture with the wisdom of what Christ wants to tell us, what the Holy Spirit is trying to unveil to us. So those who tarry long over wine, tarry is achar in Hebrew, achar, A-C-H-A-R. It means lagging behind and always running late. Sound familiar? You're drunk. You got drunk the night before. Next morning you got to go to work, school, whatever you got to do. Lagging behind, running late. In verse 31, he says, do not look at wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup and goes down smooth. Now, I can see people just reading that and saying, well, I don't drink wine when it's red. I drink it when it's white. So I guess I don't have a problem. So you're not really understanding. You're not understanding what the Spirit of God is trying to say to you. It's basically, don't let yourself get hypnotized under the power of this delusion, right? It sparkles. It looks so good. Oh, look at that color, right? Maybe that's what the fruit was, the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden, the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Maybe it had a tantalizing, hypnotic look to it, right? Here's the result. The writer of the Proverbs says in verse 32, in the end, or as a result, it bites like a serpent and stings like an adder. An adder is a venomous viper. So basically, it's like a snake with venom. Now I want to take you to something Jesus says in Mark chapter 7. Verse 15, listen to this. Jesus says there's nothing outside a person that by going into him can defile him. But the things that come out of a person are what defile him. Now, if we can apply that to alcohol, it's not that alcohol is a filthy thing, evil, defiling. It's what the abuse of alcohol, what are the results of what it can do? What comes out of you, right? From abusing it. What is the result? What comes out of you? A temper, anger, rage, bickering, complaining. Just think about it. There's a whole list of other things we could list, but you see, so it's not that the alcohol is evil. Jesus created alcohol. He made wine from water, right? Was he creating evil? No. But it's how do you use it? So in verse 33, he says, your eyes will see strange things, and your heart will utter perverse things. You might see things differently than what they truly are. Your heart will utter perverse things. Perverse in Hebrew is tapuka. It means perverted or even fraudulent. Fraud. You might fool yourself. You might try to fool others. You might have a memory of the night before that's different from the memory of the other person from the night before, and that might cause you guys to get in an argument. Wait, you're the wrong one. You started the fight. You said this. You said that. This is what happened. And you trust on your splendid memory from when you were drunk, right? Have you ever remembered something falsely when you were drinking? Well, no, not me. Come on, be honest with yourself. I'm just trying to say, be honest. Because the writer of the Proverbs says, oh, your heart, it'll utter fraudulent things. From the heart, you'll speak it out from the heart, right? Things that you fooled yourself. Verse 34, you will become like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, like one who lies on the top of a mast, like seasick, right? You ever get hung over, or even when you're drunk, feels like you're on the ocean, seasick, right? That's what a hangover feels like the next day. Verse 35, they struck me, you will say, but I was not hurt. They beat me, but I didn't feel it. When shall I awake? I must have another drink. Amazing. I know a lot of people that get into brawls, fights from drinking. They don't remember the fight. They don't remember how it happened. They're all beat up the next day. Maybe they beat somebody else up. They got bruises. They got scratches like me going through those bushes. And the craziest thing is, I remember when I was drinking, heavy duty drinking, and I was just like doing the stupidest things. And sometimes waking up the next day and thinking, oh man, did that really happen? Right? Walking through bushes and scratching myself. Do you know, there was one time I got in a fight with this guy, and I had been drinking at this bar down in a town called Ocean Beach here in San Diego. We call it OB. And it was a bar that was along this strip called Newport Avenue. Newport Avenue has all of these bars. Bar after bar after bar. Club after club after club. And it was in walking distance from my home. And I'd go down there and I'd go drinking. And I was in my 30s at the time. And I had a reputation in my neighborhood. People called me Drunk Mike. And it wasn't to put me down. Drunk Mike, fun Mike, drunk Mike, because Mike comes over and gets hammered every night. There was a party all the time in my neighborhood. Party town. So I get hammered every night. And I do stupid stuff. I remember a friend of mine who was a Marine. He got some pepper spray for his wife for protection. I was drinking and I'm like, oh, you're afraid you'll never use that pepper spray on anybody. And she's like, well, yeah, I would. If I had to, I would. And I told her, spray me in the eyes. And she's like, I'm not going to spray you in the eyes. And I told her husband, I said, if she doesn't spray me in the eyes, I'm going to beat you up. He's all, babe, spray him in the eyes. So she's like, you sure? I'm like, just do it. I want to feel it. And I don't remember why I said this, but I remember this because let me tell you something. So she takes that stuff and sprays me in the eyes, and she didn't do enough. I felt it, but I'm like, oh, come on, spray me for real. And I told him, I said, you spray me in the eyes. He's like, you really want it? You really want me to spray you in the eyes? You're not going to hit me? And I'm like, no, I won't hit you. I'll hit you if you don't. I really don't think I would have hit a friend. You know, I was just talking. And he took that stuff and he unloaded it in my eyes. Pepper spray. And drunk me, I went down to my knees. I'm like, oh, it burned so bad. I mean, I felt it for days, you guys. For the next day, I felt like I was sick. That stuff was no joke. They took a water hose and were just putting it in my eyes, and it didn't work. And so then somebody runs into their place and gets a gallon of milk and poured that in my eyes, and that helped a little bit more. But that's Drunk Mike for you. So I'm down in Ocean Beach. Go back to that story. I'm down in Ocean Beach, OB we call it, along Newport Avenue, and I'm at this bar and I had a few drinks, probably a few too many. And I remember that this girl, I don't know who she was or anything, but some girl came up and we were talking. She started talking to me, and a guy that was with some of his buddies, they walked by, and one of the guys calls the girl a slut. And I'm like, hey. He turns and looks at me, and I said, you can't talk to her that way. And he's like, oh yeah, who's gonna stop me? And I said, I am. And he gave me the finger. And him and his buddies walked out of the bar. And I turned back to her, looked at her, and she says, hey, that guy just called you out. He wants to fight you. And I'm like, he did? He called me out? And she's like, yeah, and if you don't fight him, you're a blah, 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 blah. She called me some names. That stirred me up. Because this girl's saying if I don't fight him, I'm basically a coward, let's say. But she used a different word. So I go walking out of the bar, and him and his buddies are walking down the sidewalk. And I shout, hey! And he turns around. I'm like, you called me out! He's like, oh yeah? You want to do this? I'm like, yeah! So he's like, all right. And suddenly there's a big crowd gathering around because there's going to be a fight. Now, he and I just so happen to be both wearing long sleeve, button-up shirts, really nice shirts. So he's unbuttoning his shirt and he throws it on the ground. I'm like, oh, I guess it's on. So I unbutton my shirt and I throw it on the ground. And I'm wearing one of those, under my shirt, I'm wearing this white ribbed tank top. I hate to say wife beater because that's what they call them. But I'm wearing one of those. He kind of looks at me and he kind of backs up a little bit. He's like, I'm not scared of your tattoos, man. And I'm like thinking in my head, what? I just don't want to tear up my shirt. I'm not trying to show off my tattoos. But anyway, so he starts dancing around, bouncing around, right? Want to do this? Want to do this? I'm like, yeah. And I told him, you strike first. And I put my face out. And I told him, hit me as hard as you can. And he comes in, he does wham, and he hits me as hard as he can. And just like the writer of the proverb, Solomon says, you get struck, and I didn't feel it. He struck me, but I didn't feel a thing. So I start laughing at the guy. And I told him, dude, my grandma hits harder than you. Try it again, hit me again. He's all, you want it, you want it. Now people are laughing at him because I'm ridiculing the guy, and that made him even more angry. So he comes in again, and I got my face out. I'm like, go ahead. And he hits me again. And that time I felt it. So I tackled him to the ground. And we're wrestling around. And I get on top of him from behind, and I'm trying to put him in a sleeper hold. I want to choke him out and make him pass out. So I'm getting my grip around him, and I'm trying to do the move, but he's squirming all over the place. And I'm thinking, why won't this guy hold still? And he's kind of face down by the ground, and from behind, he's taking his fist, and he keeps hitting me in my eye over and over again in the same spot, and it's getting me super mad, and I'm squeezing hard. And I remember I kept telling him, night, 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 sleepy time. But my mind, I'm thinking, why won't he go out? One of us is going to go out. Either he's going to knock me out, or I'm going to choke him out. And suddenly, from behind us is a sound that goes, woo! And it's the cops, and I see the lights. And the guy starts yelling, let me up, I can't be fighting. So I said, just get up slowly, and I let go, and he jumps up, and him and his friends took off running. And I'm standing there alone, and the crowd scatters, and the cops are behind me. Now behind me is west. The ocean's right behind me. And the cops are right behind me. And so I start walking east. I just start walking slowly, and I don't stop. And I'm expecting any second now to get tackled by the police. But that never happens. And as I'm walking, some people, not the police, but other people that were in the crowd come catching up with me, and they're winded because I guess they ran after me. They're like, hey, dude, do you know who you just fought? Oh my God, you held your own. Do you know who you just fought? I'm like, now I was feeling like my head was spinning. I felt nauseated, you know. I'm drunk and I just got in a fight. I'm dehydrated feeling, I need some water. And I'm like, who? And I remember my eye was closed up, right? I could tell it was closed. I probably looked like Rocky Balboa in my eye. You know, remember Rocky movie when he'd get beat up in the eye? And they're like, that guy, he trains for the UFC. He's a student of Ken Shamrock at the Lion's Den. And the Lion's Den was a gym in San Diego County that trains people to fight in the UFC. So this guy's training to be a professional fighter. And these guys are all excited. Dude, you held your own. You held your own against him. Who are you? Now, I wasn't proud of that. I actually was opposite. I was humiliated and embarrassed. I mean, I felt like I had just gotten beat up. And now these guys are acting like I'm some kind of hero. And I was humiliated. And I remember I didn't want to go back to that bar again for a long time. I didn't want anybody to see me. I don't want to be known as the drunken brawler. And I had to go to work the next day. And I'm a hairstylist. And I got to go to work with a black eye and busted up. And you think people aren't going to ask me what happened? I got in a drunken brawl the night before. That was really humiliating and embarrassing. But that didn't stop me. I kept my drinking. And here comes drunk Mike again, going to work with hangovers. Another time, I was at home, and they always say accidents happen when you're closest to your home. And in my case, that was true. I had been drinking. I was pretty drunk. I was dating this girl at the time, and we had gotten into a bad argument, and I slammed down the phone. I'll show her. And I got out of my house, and I don't know what I was thinking. It was raining outside, and I got on my motorcycle. I had a street bike at the time, and it was a pretty big bike. It was a 1500 cc cruiser. I start up my bike, and I'm drunk. And I ride it right down the street, and I'm about to turn at a street light. And I make that tight turn, and my bike goes down, and I go sliding in front of all this traffic. Now, fortunately, I didn't hurt anybody. And fortunately, I didn't get hurt too bad, but my motorcycle got busted up a bit. And all these people get out of their cars. Are you okay, man? And I was drunk, and I didn't want anybody to know. I was so embarrassed, and I was like scared too. And I pick up my motorcycle as fast as I can. Oh, I'm fine. I start up and I take off. I'm like, oh man, the clutch on the motorcycle was broken in half. There was just this little nub of it, but I drove it home. See, it's things like that, you guys, and I'm not telling you these stories because I'm proud of them. I'm sharing what happened. Now, that's not the only kind of stuff that happens with alcohol. It has also destroyed relationships. I don't want to blame the alcohol. I want to blame my use of alcohol. See, there's some people that can drink responsibly, can drink in moderation, can use it for the right purpose at the right time, appropriate time, like maybe a wedding celebration, like Jesus. Jesus comes in and makes water into wine after everybody had already gotten drunk at this party. And Jesus didn't make watered down wine. He made from water strong wine, even better than the stuff that was served before. And usually people serve the watered down stuff when everybody's already drunk. But in this case, Jesus serves the better stuff. Now, was he encouraging drunkenness or alcohol abuse? Well, let me ask you this. When there was a crowd of 5,000 men, not including the women and children that were there, so 5,000 plus people, and they were hungry, and his disciples said, Lord, all we have here is 5 loaves of bread and 2 small fish. Jesus says, well, give them to me. And Jesus blesses it, hands it to his disciples, and this stuff miraculously multiplies. Not only did it feed everybody as much as they desired, the Bible says they ate as much as they desired. Jesus didn't say, hey, don't be gluttons. Don't be gluttons. That's called gluttony. No. They could eat to their fill, and they could eat to even more if they wanted, as much as they wanted. In fact, there was so much that Jesus provided that after everybody had eaten to their fill, there were 12 big baskets filled with the leftovers. So back to the wine. Was Jesus including drunkenness? Well, back to the food. Was Jesus encouraging gluttony? Was Jesus encouraging drunkenness? Was Jesus encouraging gluttony? You see what I'm saying? There's a proper time and a proper place. And there's a word called abuse. It's how we use things, you guys. When food becomes an addiction where you abuse it, where it harms you, or maybe even others that care about you, then it becomes a problem for you. And God doesn't write about gluttony because he wants to keep you from having fun and eating what you want. He discourages gluttony because he cares about your health, maybe even your finances. And I'm sure the same goes with drunkenness. He cares about your health, your finances, and even your relationships. Because I've seen many relationships get destroyed because people care more about their indulgence with alcohol, their abuse of alcohol, than they care about even their own family members, even their own wives or husbands or children or friends. In some cases, even their pets, neglecting their pets. I know a guy, he and his wife both are not only alcoholics, but they drink to drunkenness every night. And they had gotten divorced, and never did I hear from either one of them. I know them both. Never did either one of them ever say that it had anything to do with their drinking. But they divorced. Both are confessed alcoholics and confessed drunks, but they also confess that they love it. And they don't want to change it, neither one of them. Well, so he divorces his wife. She stays in the house that they were living in. He goes and moves in with this girlfriend that he got. And he's driving his car one night. And he crashes it into a light post. And he was drunk driving. And where he had crashed was a mile or two from where his ex-wife lived. So he goes running to her home on foot, abandons his crashed vehicle, comes to the home, and he's scared. You gotta hide me, you gotta hide me. Tells her what happened, so she hides him upstairs, and before you know it, the police come knocking on the door. She answers the door. Can I help you, officers? Yes, we found an abandoned car registered to so-and-so, and this is his last known address. Do you happen to know where he is? And she says, I'm sorry, officers, but we're divorced. But he's the father of my children, and I hope he's okay. Is everything okay? They're like, oh, we're sorry, ma'am. We didn't know that. Sorry to bother you. Okay, well, I hope everything's okay. And they leave. And nothing ever happened to him from that. He's actually even been in jail before that from drunk driving. Got pulled over for drunk driving. And do you know that he actually told me that he drives better if he's had a few? And you know, that's where Solomon, the writer of the Proverbs, he said, what happens to people is they speak out what? Perverse or fraudulent things. He's deceiving himself. You understand that? By saying he drives better if he's had a few. Now, he's not the only person I've ever heard say this. I've heard this from plenty of others. A few years ago, I went to this fundraiser that a church was holding for a family. There was a husband, a wife, and their son. They pulled over because they had a flat tire. The father gets out of the car to fix the flat tire, and they got hit by a drunk driver. At this fundraiser, the father, the husband, he's in a cast and he's using crutches. The wife, the mother, she's in a wheelchair. The son, he wasn't there because he was killed because of a drunk driver. I can't even imagine what that family has gone through. And another thing I can't imagine is what it must be like to be that drunk driver who survived and has to live with the fact that they killed a child because they got behind the wheel of a car and chose to drive that car while drunk. This video is not to shame any of you. And I wanted to talk about my problem I had because I don't want to be some hypocrite getting on here and you shouldn't drink and all that. And no, you guys, now listen. Alcohol's not a part of my life anymore. It's almost like a demon was cast out of me. It's pretty miraculous, but it was through much pain that alcohol left me. A very painful experience. Heartbreaking, but it's gone. And I'm grateful for that, although it hurt a lot, but it's out of my life. And it's amazing. Ever since alcohol's been out of my life, people at my gym, they stop me all the time. Hey man, what's your secret? What have you been doing different? Are you taking something? Are you on some new supplement? You got a new training program? A new diet? What is it? I'm like, I quit drinking. See, there was once upon a time I'd go to the gym and people thought I was so intense because I'd be sweating a lot at the gym and it looked like I was really intense. And look at that guy working out so hard and sweat like that. Well, the truth is I was sweating because of the booze that was coming out of my system from the night before. And ever since I quit drinking, the results changed drastically. It's amazing. I'm very thankful, not just because the physical and the mental, but everything. It's like a demon has been cast out of my life, and I don't even look at alcohol and get tempted anymore, right? And I don't even want to drink moderately anymore. And I'm not even, and listen, I just told you, there's nothing wrong with drinking moderation or anything. Some people handle it better. I just realized, because I'm honest with myself, and I'm like, you know what? For me personally, alcohol is best that I leave it alone, because it seems like when I use it, I have the tendency to abuse it. And when I abuse it, I do and say stupid things. You want to hear? I'm going to just confess this to you. And this is the most embarrassing thing. I can't even believe I'm about to say this. Oh boy, Lord. Whew. I remember one morning waking up from a night of drinking so much whiskey. And I'm like, wow. Oh, I woke up and the room's spinning. It was but I had that day off, you know. I drank the night before because the next day is my day off. So let's have some whiskeys. And I drank a whole bunch. And I woke up and I'm like, oh, my bed's soaking wet. I'm like, man, I must have sweat all that whiskey out. Oh, my bed's so wet. Like, wait a minute. Nobody was with me. I peed the bed. And to you, that might be funny, and maybe it could be kind of comical sounding, but I'll tell you, nobody knew. But I was humiliated. That memory actually makes me want to cry right now because I was so humiliated. I'm like, even when I was a child, my mom told me, you were a child that never wet the bed. And here I'm a grown man, and I drink so much that I wet the bed. So stupid, I know, and that's embarrassing. And you think that something like that would have stopped me? I just remember saying, you know what? I don't want to ever drink like that again, but I did. And then through a really bad, painful experience, it's like that demon finally left. It was a demon for me, you know, and I call it a demon because a demon wants to do something called possess you. And so many of us are delusional. We're delusional. We don't admit to ourselves, let alone others. We think we got that thing under control, but the thing is, it's controlling us. You don't possess it, it's possessing you. You're not master over it, it's master over you. And some of you need to be set free, and I know there's a whole bunch of you dealing with this. And I'm so grateful that it's not a part of my life. And I've been free for quite some time now. And so I'm speaking from experience. And if you can do alcohol and do it responsibly, God bless you. I'm sure Jesus didn't just make wine, but he knew how to drink it and drink it appropriately. But then there's others that we realize, you know what? When I drink, it's out of control. And if that's you, I don't have a 12-step program to offer you. I don't have advice of where to go, where to get help. But what I can do is I can lift you up in prayer. And I want to tell you something, and this is the truth. I've dealt with addiction after addiction after addiction of many different things in my life. And I've heard every excuse, and I've made every excuse as well. Well, it comes from the earth. God created it. God made it. How could it be bad? Well, like I said, Is it controlling you? Is it master over you? Is it an addiction? If it's something even beyond alcohol, let's include this in this prayer today. And be real with yourself. And I know I'm going to get some emails of people that are probably going to be so upset that I even dared speak about this, but that doesn't matter. But what I do want to tell you this, I want to tell you, God, for one thing, and this is going to mess some people's heads up, but I'm going to dare say it. He is not angry at you. Do I dare say he's not even disappointed in you? God will never give up on you. You are not hopeless. You are not a lost cause. He loves you. He doesn't want to see you or anyone close to you, or even strangers that are pulling over to fix their flat tire. He doesn't want to see any of us hurting. He wants what's best for you. You have to believe that. And if you can believe that he loves you, then maybe you'll love yourself, to grab hold of his help and the help that he sends others to give to you. Because you can't battle this thing all alone. So step one, if I can give you a step, is be honest with yourself. The next step is say, Lord, I need help. And why do you think Jesus gave us a helper? To help us in our weaknesses. Father, thank you for your love and patience and your amazing grace for each and every one of us. If you can help me, Father, you can help anybody. If you've been patient with me, Father, you're patient with anybody. And I have failed over and over and over again and went through condemning myself and being condemned by others, Father. And I'm so thankful that you have never condemned me. So I lift up each and every one that is listening and watching today, or any other day they watch this or listen to this video. And because you've given me Christ, and Christ lives in me, not because of my good behavior, not because I did anything to deserve it. It's all because of your amazing grace, Father, that you gave me and everyone out there. You gave us Christ. And your word says that by his stripes we are set free, we are healed, we are delivered, and by his blood we escape from harm and are delivered into a place of safety. So in the authority and the powerful name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, I lift everyone up. And from the top of your heads to the bottom of your feet, be free, be delivered, be healed, and be whole. Be cleansed of this addiction. And if there's any demonic oppression that is involved in any type of addiction, even self-hate, I command that evil spirit go now in the mighty name of Yeshua. Be healed, be set free, children of God. Amen. Now listen, on all my videos, in the description box, I have my email address. Whatever you tell me is confidential. If you have a good report to send me, then send it. If you're still battling with anything like this, let me know. If you need prayer again, we'll pray again. I'll lift you up. All right? I send you all my love, the agape love that comes from the Father. I receive it and send it out to you. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. God bless you all. Be free. And just know, God loves you and He wants you free. Right? And who the Son sets free is free indeed. So have a great one. I'll talk to you in the next video.